Back. Welcome back to Rise and Script. Shalom, everybody. Happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath. It's the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, baby. That's what we're here to do. Remember the Sabbath day. But we're not here for the Sabbath reading. We'll be here for later for the Sabbath reading. Right now, it is Rise and Script. Since I'm up and still up, let's go ahead and get First Maccabees going. Let's finish reading about Judas Maccabees and the great stuff he was doing, just like we just read about Toussaint Louverture in the uprising, the insurgency, the insurrections that they had. We're going to read them in the Apocrypha today. And once again, we're back in the Apocrypha in the middle of Malachi and Matthew is where the Apocrypha is found. And we're reading from First Maccabees. But let's go over the books of the Bible. How many do you know? How many do you know without looking? How many do you know without looking? Man. All right, let's go. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, 1 Esdras, 2 Esdras, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, the wisdom of Solomon, Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, the song of the three holy children, the history of Susanna, the destruction of Bel and the dragon, the prayer of Manasseh, 1 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. Make sure I said that right. Yep. 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Hebrews, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude, and Revelations. And those are the books of the Bible. Those are the books of the Bible. Whatever God you serve, read your book, man. Read your books. Know your books. Know your books. Read them for yourself. Don't just let somebody else read to you or somebody else teach you. Read for yourself. Go seek out and see if the things that they have said are true or not. Read for yourself. And that's what we're doing. We're just reading. We're reading. We're reading. So we're going to jump back in. We're reading today, 1 Maccabees chapter 9 through chapter 11. Let us blow this trumpet and be heard. The same way Judas Maccabees and them would blow the trumpets before they go to battle or to hear a great cry. Let's blow the trumpet. My boys are still asleep too. I'm trying to not to blow loud, but yeah. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All right, let's read 1 Maccabees chapter 9. 1 Maccabees chapter 9. Where we left off last time, yesterday, was they was battling and they was trying to capture Judas Maccabeus. Eleazar had died when he tried to the Romans was coming in, they was battling against themselves, and Antiochus and Ptolemaeus and some other ones. They was battling. Eleazar died under an elephant. We was reading about the endings of war and the battles that were being fought and the people who were trying to get names for themselves. But let's get it. The book of First Maccabees, chapter 9. Furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his hosts were slain in battle, he sent Barcachides and alchemists into the land of Judea the second time, and with them the chief strength of his hosts, who went forth by the way that leadeth to Galgala, and pitched their tents before Masaloth, which is in Arbela. And after they had won it, they slew much people. Also, the first month of the 150th and second year, they encamped before Jerusalem. And from whence they removed and went to Berea with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Now Judas had pitched his tent in Elisa, and 3,000 chosen men with him, who, seeing the multitude of the other army to be so great, were sore afraid, and whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, and insomuch as there abode of them no more than 800 men. Now when Judas therefore saw that his host slipped away, and that the battle pressed upon him, he was sore troubled in mind, and much distressed, for that he had no time to gather them together. Nevertheless, unto them that remained he said, Let us arise and go up against our enemies, if peradventure we may be able to fight with them. But they dehorted him, saying, We shall never be able. Let us now rather save our lives, and hereafter we will return with our brethren and fight against them, for we are but few. Then Judas said, God forbid that we should do this thing, and flee away from them. If our time be come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and let us not stain our honor. And with that, the host of Barcachides, let me see how to pronounce that shit. Bacchides. I know it's like a Roman or Greek name. Barcachides. Not Hawker Heights. Let's see. Bacch. IDES.
Bacchides.
Wrong name.
Bacchides.
Wrong name. Bacchides. Maybe it's Bacchides. 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 But she said it like that. With that, the host of Bacchides were moved out of their tents and stood over against them, and their horsemen being divided into two troops, and their slingers and archers going before the host. And they that marched in the forward were all mighty men. And as for Bacchides, he was in the right wing. So the host drew near on the two parts and sounded their trumpets. And they also of Judas and the host draw near and sounded their trumpets. And the host drew near and sounded their trumpets. They also of Judas' side, even they sounded their trumpets, Also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Now, when Judas perceived that Bacchides and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took with him all the hardy men who discomfited the right wing and pursued them unto the Mount Azotus. But when they of the left wing saw that they of the right wing were discomfited, they followed upon Judas and those that were with him hard at the heels from behind, and whereupon there was a sore battle, insomuch as many were slain on both parts. Now Judas also was killed, and the remnant fled. And then Jonathan and Simon took Judas their brother and buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers in Moden. Moreover, they bewailed him, and all Israel made great lamentations for him and mourned many days, saying, How is the valiant man fallen and delivered Israel? As for the other things concerning Judas and his wars, and the noble acts which he did, and his greatness, they are not written, for they were very many. Now after the death of Judas, the wicked began to put forth their heads in all the coasts of Israel, and there arose up all such as wrought iniquity. And in those days also was there a very great famine, by reason whereof the country revolted and went with them. Then Bacchides chose the wicked men and made them lords of the country, and they made inquiry and search for Judas's friends, and brought them unto Bacchides, who took vengeance of them and used them despitefully. So was there a great affliction in Israel, the like whereof was not since the time that a prophet was not seen among them. For this cause all Judas's friends came together and said unto Jonathan, Since thy brother Judas died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies and Bacchides, and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us. Now therefore we have chosen thee this day to be our prince and captain in his stead, that thou mayest fight our battles. And upon this Jonathan took the governance upon him at that time, and rose up instead of his brother Judas. But when Bacchides gat knowledge thereof, he sought for to slay him. And then Jonathan and Simon his brother, and all that were with him, perceiving that, fled into the wilderness of Phicol, and pitched their tents by the water of the pool Asphar, which when Bacchides understood, he came near to Jordan with all his host upon the Sabbath day. Now Jonathan had sent his brother John, a captain of the people, to pray his friends, the Nabathites, that they might leave with them their carriage, which was much. But the children of Jambri came out of Medeba and took John and all that he had, and went their way with him. And after this came word to Jonathan and Simon his brother, and the children of Jambri made a great marriage, and were bringing the bride from Nadabatha, with a great train, as being the daughter of one of the great princes of Canaan. Therefore they remembered John their brother, and went up, and hid themselves under the covert of the mountain. And where they lifted up their eyes and looked and beheld, there was much ado and great carriage. And the bridegroom came forth, and his friends and brethren too, to meet them with drums and instruments and music and many weapons. Then Jonathan and they that were with him arose up against them from the place where they lay in ambush, and made a slaughter of them in such sort, as many fell down dead, and the remnant fled into the mountains, and they took all their spoils. Thus was the marriage turned into mourning, and the noise of their melody into lamentation. So when they had avenged fully the blood of their brother, they turned again to the marsh of Jordan. Now when Bacchides heard hereof, he came on the Sabbath day unto the banks of Jordan with a great power. Then Jonathan said to his company, let us go up now and fight for our lives, for it standeth not with us today as in time past. For, behold, the battle is before us and behind us, and the water of Jordan on this side and that side, the marsh likewise and wood, neither is there place for us to turn aside. Wherefore, cry ye now unto heaven, that ye may be delivered from the hand of your enemies. And with that they joined battle. And Jonathan stretched forth his hand to smite Bacchides, but he turned back from him. And then Jonathan and they that were with him leapt into Jordan, and swam over unto the farther bank. Howbeit the other passed not over Jordan unto them. So there were slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men. And afterward returned Bacchides to Jerusalem, and repaired the strong city in Judea, the fort in Jericho, and Emmaus, and Beth-horon, and Bethel, and Themnatha, and Parathoni, and Tophon. And these did he strengthen with high walls, with gates, and with bars. And in them he set a garrison, that they might work malice upon Israel. And he fortified also the city of Bethsura, and Gazara, and the tower, and put forces in them, and provision of victuals. And besides, he took the chief men's sons in the country for hostages, and put them into the tower at Jerusalem to be kept. Moreover, in the 153rd year, in the 2nd month, Alcimus commanded that the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary should be pulled down, and he pulled down also the works of the prophets. And as he began to pull down, even at that time was Alcimus plagued, and his enterprises hindered. For his mouth was stopped, and he was taken with the palsy, and so that he could no more speak anything, nor give order concerning his house. So Alcimus died at that time with great torment. And now, when Bacchides saw that Alcimus was dead, he returned to the king, and whereupon the land of Judea was in rest 2 years. And then all the ungodly men held a council, saying, behold, Jonathan and his company are at ease, and dwell without care. And now, therefore, we will bring Bacchides hither. Who shall take them all in one night? So they went and consulted with him. And then removed he, and came with a great host, and sent letters privily to the adherents in Judea, and they should take Jonathan, and those that were with him. And howbeit they could not, because their counsel was known unto them. Wherefore they took of the men of the country that were authors of that mischief about 50 persons, and slew them. And afterward Jonathan and Simon, and they that were with him, got them away to Bethbasi, which is in the wilderness, and they repaired the decays thereof, and made it strong. And which thing when Bacchides knew, he gathered together all his hosts, and sent word to them that were in Judea. And that then, when he had laid siege against Bethbasi, and they fought against it a long season, and made engines of war, but Jonathan left his brother Simon in the city, and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number went he forth. And he smote Odenarchs, and his brethren, and the children of Phazaron, and their tents. And when he began to smote them, and came up with the forces, Simon and his company went out of the city, and burned up the engines of war, and fought against Bacchides, who was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked men that gave him counsel to come into the country, insomuch as he slew many of them, and purposed to return into his own country. Wherefore, when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him, to the end he should make peace with him, and deliver them the prisoners. Which thing he accepted, and did according to his demands, and sware unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Judea, he returned and went his way out into his own land, neither came he any more into their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, but Jonathan dwelt at MACCABEES, and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the ungodly men out of Israel. Chapter 10. Remember, we're only reading through chapter 11 this morning, today, right now. We're only reading through chapter 11, which is about 2 more pages. Chapter 10. 3 more pages. Chapter 10. In the 160th year, Alexander, the son of Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, went up and took Ptolemais, for the people had received him, by means whereof he reigned there. Now when King Demetrius heard thereof, he gathered together an exceeding great host, and went forth against him to fight. Moreover, Demetrius sent letters unto Jonathan with loving words, so as he magnified him. For, said he, let us first make peace with him, before he join with Alexander against us, and else he will remember all the evils that we have done against him and against his brethren and his people. Wherefore he gave him authority to gather together an host and to provide weapons, that he might aid him in battle. And he commanded also that the hostages that were in the tower should be delivered. Then came Jonathan to Jerusalem, and read the letters in the audience of all the people, and of them that were in the tower, who were sore afraid when they heard that the king had given him authority to gather together an host. Whereupon they of the tower delivered their hostages unto Jonathan, and he delivered them unto their parents. And this done, Jonathan settled himself in Jerusalem, and began to build and repair the city. And he commanded the workmen to build the walls and the Mount Zion round about with square stones for fortification, and they did so. Then the strangers that were in the fortresses which MACCABEES had built fled away, insomuch as every man left his place and went into his own country. And only at Bootsoulja certain of those that had forsaken the law and the commandments remained still, for it was their place of refuge. Now when King Alexander had heard what promises Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan, when also it was told him of the battles and noble acts which he and his brethren had done, and of the pains that they had endured, he said, shall we find such another man? Now therefore we will make him our friend and confederate. And upon this he wrote a letter and sent it unto him, according to these words, saying, King Alexander, to his brother Jonathan, sending greeting. We have heard of thee, that thou art a man of great power, and meet to be our friend. Wherefore, now this day we ordain thee to be the high priest of thy nation, and to be called the king's friend. And therewithal he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold, and required thee to take our part and keep friendship with us. So in the 7th month of the 160th year, at the feast of the tabernacles, Jonathan put on the holy robe, and gathered together forces, and provided much armor. Whereof, when Demetrius heard, he was very sore, and said, what have we done, that Alexander had prevented us in making amity with the Jews to strengthen himself? I also will write unto them words of encouragement, and promise them dignities and gifts, that I may have their aid. He sent unto them, therefore, to this effect, King Demetrius unto the people of the Jews sendeth greetings. And whereas ye have kept covenants with us, and continued in our friendship, not joining yourselves with our enemies, we have heard hereof and are glad. And wherefore now continue ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will recompense you for those things ye do in our behalf, and will grant you many immunities and give you rewards. And now do I free you, and for your sake, I release all the Jews from tributes and from the customs of salt and from crown taxes. Well, they giving Jonathan everything, man. They giving that boy everything he wants. He ain't even asked for this shit, and they giving it to him. Take it. Take it. Be my friend. Wherefore, now continue ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will recompense you for the things that you do on our behalf, and we will grant you immunities and give you rewards. And now do I free you, and for your sake I release all the Jews from tributes and from the customs of salt and from crown taxes, and from that which appertaineth unto me, to receive for the third part of the seed and the half of the fruit of the trees. I release it from this day forth, so that they shall not be taken of the land of Judea, nor of the three governments which are added thereunto out of the country of Samaria and Galilee, from this day forth forevermore. Let Jerusalem also be holy and free, with the borders thereof, both from tenths and tributes. And as for the tower which is at Jerusalem, I yield up my authority over it, and give it to the high priest, that he may set in it such men as he shall choose to keep it. Moreover, I freely set at liberty every one of the Jews that were carried captive out of the land of Judea into any part of my kingdom, and I will that all my officers remit the tributes even of their cattle. Now, furthermore, I will that all the feasts and Sabbaths and new moons and solemn days and the 3 days before the feast and the 3 days after the feast shall be all days of immunity and freedom for all Jews in my realm. And also no man shall have authority to meddle with them, or to molest any of them in any matter. And I will further that there be enrolled among the king's forces about 30,000 men of the Jews, unto whom pay shall be given, as belongeth to all the king's forces. And of them some shall be placed in the king's strongholds, of whom also some shall be set over the affairs of the kingdom, which are of trust. And I will that their overseers and governors be of themselves, and that they live after their own laws, even as the king hath commanded it in the land of Judea. And in concerning the 3 governments that are added to Judea from the country of Samaria, let them be joined with Judah, that they may be reckoned to be under one, nor bound to obey any other authority than the high priests. As for Ptolemais and the land pertaining thereto, I give it as a free gift to the sanctuary at Jerusalem for the necessary expenses of the sanctuary. Moreover, I give every year 15,000 shekels of silver out of the king's accounts from the places of appertaining. Man, he is giving a lot. There's a lot of shit, man. He's trying to bribe that ball. And all the overplus which the officers paid not in as the former time, from henceforth shall be given toward the works of the temple. And beside this, the 5,000 shekels of silver, which they took from the uses of the temple out of the accounts year by year, even those things shall be released, and because they appertain to the priests that minister. And whosoever they be that flee unto the temple at Jerusalem, or be within the liberties thereof, being indebted unto the king, or for any other matter, let them be at liberty, and all that they have in my realm. For the building also and repairing of the works of the sanctuary, expenses shall be given of the king's account. Yea, and for the building of the walls of Jerusalem, and the fortifying thereof round about, expenses shall be given out of the king's accounts, as also for the building of the walls in Judea. Now when Jonathan and the people heard these words, they gave no credit unto them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Israel, for he had afflicted them very sore. But with Alexander they were well pleased, because he was the first that entreated a true peace with them, and they were confederate with him always. Then gathered King Alexander great forces and camped over against Demetrius. And after the two kings had joined battle, Demetrius' hosts fled, but Alexander followed after him and prevailed against them. And he continued the battle very sore until the sun went down. And that day was Demetrius slain. And afterward, Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Egypt, with a message to this effect: For as much as I am come again to my realm, and am set in the throne of my progenitors, and have gotten the dominion, and overthrown Demetrius, and recovered our country, for after I have joined battle with him, both he and his host was discomfited by us, so that we sit in the throne of his kingdom. Now, therefore, let us make a league and amity together, and give me now thy daughter to wife, and I will be thy son-in-law, and will give both thee and her gifts according to thy dignity. Then Ptolemy the king gave answer, saying, Happy be the day wherein thou didst return into the land of thy fathers, and sattest in the throne of their kingdom. And now will I do to thee as thou hast written. Meet me therefore at Ptolemais, that we may see one another, for I will marry my daughter to thee according to thy desire. So Ptolemy went out of Egypt with his daughter Cleopatra. Let me mark that. So Ptolemy went out of Egypt with his daughter Cleopatra, and they came up unto Ptolemais in the 162nd year. Where King Alexander, meeting him, gave unto him his daughter Cleopatra, and celebrated her marriage at Ptolemais with great glory, as the manner of kings is. Now King Alexander had written unto Jonathan that he should come and meet him, and who thereupon went honorably to Ptolemais, where he met the two kings, and gave them and their friends gold, silver, and gold, and many presents, and found favor in their sight. And at that time certain pestilent fellows of Israel, men of a wicked life, assembled themselves against him to accuse him, but the king would not hear them. Yea, more than that, the king commanded to take off his garments and clothe him in purple, and they did so. Also, he made him sit by himself, and said unto his princes, Go with him into the midst of the city, and make proclamation that no man complain against him of any matter, and that no man trouble him for any matter of cause. Now when his accusers saw that he was honored according to the proclamation, and clothed in purple, they fled all away. So the king honored him, and wrote him among his chief friends, and made him a duke, a partaker of his dominion. And afterward Jonathan returned to Jerusalem with peace and gladness. Furthermore, in the 165th year came Demetrius, son of Demetrius, out of Crete into the land of his fathers, and whereof when King Alexander heard tell, he was right sorry, and returned into Antioch. And then Demetrius made Apollonius the governor of Celesyria, his general, who gathered together a great host and camped in Jamnia, and sent unto Jonathan the high priest, saying, Thou alone lifted up thyself against us, and I am laughed to scorn for thy sake, and reproached. And why dost thou vaunt thy power against us in the mountains? Now therefore, if thou trustest in thine own strength, come down to us into the plain field, and there let us try the matter together. For with me is the power of the cities, and ask and learn who I am, and the rest. That boy talking shit. Boy, you ain't heard about me? You better ask the cities about me. I'm the man. I'm out here. Wherefore, verse 72, chapter 10, verse 72. Ask and learn who I am, and the rest that take our part. And they shall tell thee that thy foot is not able to stand before our face, for thy fathers have been twice put to flight in their own land. Wherefore, oh, you talking shit. Wherefore, now thou shalt not be able to abide the horsemen and so great a power in the plain, where is neither stone nor flint, nor place to flee unto. So when Jonathan heard these words of Apollonius, he was moved in his mind, and choosing 10,000 men, he went out of Jerusalem, where Simon his brother met him for to help him. And he pitched his tent against Joppe. But they of Joppe shut him out of the city, because Apollonius had a garrison there. And then Jonathan laid siege unto it, whereupon they of the city let him in for fear. And so Jonathan won Joppe, and whereof, when Apollonius heard, he took 3,000 horsemen with a great host of footmen, and went to Azotus as one that journeyed, and therewithal drew him forth into the plain, because he had a great number of horsemen, in whom he put his trust. And then Jonathan followed after him to Azotus, where the armies joined battle. Now Apollonius had left 1,000 horsemen in ambush, and Jonathan knew that there was an ambushment behind him, for they had compassed in his host, and cast darts at the people from morning till evening. But the people stood still, as Jonathan had commanded them, and so the enemy's horses were tired. Then brought Simon forth his host, and set them against the footmen, for the horsemen were spent, and who were discomfited by him, and fled. The horsemen also, being scattered in the field, fled to Azotus, and went into Beth Dagon, the idol temples, for safety. But Jonathan set fire on Azotus and the cities round about it, and took their spoil, and the temple of Dagon with them that were fled into it, he burned with fire. Do your damn thing, Jonathan. That's right. Thus they were burned and slain with the sword, well nigh 8,000 men. And from this Jonathan removed his host, and camped against Ascalon, where the men of the city came forth and met him with great pomp. And after this returned Jonathan and his host unto Jerusalem, having many spoils. And now when King Alexander heard these things, he honored Jonathan yet more, and sent him a buckle of gold, as the use is to be given to such as are of the king's blood. He gave him also Acheron, with the borders thereof in possession. Chapter 11 is the last chapter we're going to read today in Rising Scripts. Chapter 11. Let me get me some water. And the king of Egypt gathered together a great host, like the sand that lieth upon the seashore, and many ships, and went about through deceit to get Alexander's kingdom and joined it to his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Syria in peaceable manner, so as they of the cities opened unto him and met him, for King Alexander had commanded them so to do, because he was his father-in-law. Now, Ptolemy entered into the cities. He set in every one of them a garrison of soldiers to keep it. And when he came near to Azotus, they showed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt, and Azotus, and the suburbs thereof that were destroyed, and the bodies that were cast abroad, and them that he had burnt in the battle. For they had made heaps of them by the way where he should pass. Also, they told the king whatsoever Jonathan had done, to the intent he might blame him. But the king held his peace. And then Jonathan met the king with great pomp at Joppe, where they saluted one another and lodged. And afterward, Jonathan, when he had gone with the king to the river called Eleutherus, returned again to Jerusalem. And King Ptolemy, therefore, having gotten the dominion of the cities by the sea unto Seleucia upon the sea coast, imagined wicked counsel against Alexander. From the sea unto Seleucia. All this historical stuff, this is a lot of historical knowledge right here that definitely would need to be looked up, for somebody who is trying to get a deeper understanding, so you can see exactly what time period it was, what was going on at that time. Is the time of the gave you key names like Cleopatra and Alexander, but not Alexander the Great, but Alexander and Cleopatra, Ptolemy, Demetrius. Whereupon he sent ambassadors unto King Demetrius, saying, Come, let us make a league betwixt us, and I will give thee my daughter whom Alexander hath, and thou shalt reign in thy father's kingdom. Now, for I repent that I gave my daughter unto him, for he sought to slay me, and thus did he slander him, because he was desirous of his kingdom. Wherefore he took his daughter from him and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known. Then Ptolemy entered into Antioch, where he set 2 crowns upon his head, and the crown of Asia and of Egypt. And in the mean season, was King Alexander in Cilicia, there we go, because those that dwelt in those parts had revolted from him. But when Alexander heard of this, he came to war against him, whereupon King Ptolemy brought forth his hosts and met him with a mighty power and put him into flight. So Alexander fled into Arabia, and there to be defended. But King Ptolemy was exalted. For Zabdiel, the Arabian, took off Alexander's head and sent it unto Ptolemy. And King Ptolemy also died the 3rd day after. And they that were in the strongholds were slain one of another. And by this means Demetrius reigned in the 167th year. And at the same time Jonathan gathered together them that were in Judea to take the tower that was in Jerusalem, and he made many engines of war against it. Then certain ungodly persons who hated their own people went unto the king and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower. Whereof, when he heard, he was angry, and immediately removing, he came to Ptolemaeus and wrote unto Jonathan that he should not lay siege to the tower, but come and speak with him at Ptolemaeus in great haste. Nevertheless, Jonathan, when he heard this, commanded to besiege it still. And he chose certain of the elders of Israel and the priests, and put himself in peril, and took silver and gold and raiment and divers presents besides, and went to the favor in his sight, and went to Ptolemais unto the king, where he found favor in his sight. And though certain ungodly men of the people had made complaints against him, yet the king entreated him as his predecessor had done before, and promoted him in the sight of all his friends, and confirmed him in the high priesthood, and in all the honors that he had before, and gave him preeminence amongst his chief friends. Then Jonathan desired the king that he would make Judea free from tribute, as also the three governments, with the country of Samaria, and he promised him 300 talents. So the king consented and wrote letters unto Jonathan of all these things after this manner. King Demetrius unto his brother Jonathan, and unto the nation of the Jews sendeth greetings. We send you here a copy of the letter which we did write unto our cousin Listhenes concerning you, that ye might see it. King Demetrius unto his father Listhenes sendeth greetings. We are determined to do good to the people of the Jews, who are our friends, and keep covenants with us, because of their goodwill towards us. Wherefore we have ratified unto them the borders of Judea, with the three governments of Ephrama, and Lida, and Ramathaim, that are added unto Judea from the country of Samaria. And all these appertaineth unto them, for all such as do sacrifice in Jerusalem, instead of the payments which the kings receive of them yearly aforetime, out of the fruits of the earth and of trees. And as for other things that belong unto us, of the tithes and customs pertaineth unto us, as also the salt pits and the crown taxes, which are due unto us, we discharge them of them all for their relief. Now therefore, and nothing hereof shall be revoked from this time forth forever. Now therefore, see that thou make a copy of these things, and let it be delivered unto Jonathan, and set upon the holy mount in the conspicuous place. And after this, when King Demetrius saw that the land was quiet before him, and that no resistance was made against him, he sent away all his forces, every one to his own place, except certain bands of strangers, whom he had gathered from the isles of the heathen. And wherefore all the forces of the fathers hated him. All the forces of his fathers hated him. Why y'all hating on that ball? Because he gave the Jews back all this shit. Moreover, there was one Tryphon that had been of Alexander's part of four, who, seeing that all the host murmured against Demetrius, went to Samelku, the Arabian, that brought up Antiochus, the young son of Alexander, and lay sore upon him to deliver him this young Antiochus, that he might reign in his father's stead. And he told him therefore all that Demetrius had done, and how his men of war were at enmity with him. And there he remained a long season. And in the meantime, Jonathan sent unto King Demetrius that he would cast those of the tower out of Jerusalem, and those also in the fortresses, for they fought against Israel. So Demetrius sent unto Jonathan, saying, I will not only do this for thee and thy people, but I will greatly honor thee and thy nation, if opportunity serve. And now therefore thou shalt do well, if thou send me men to help me, for all my forces are gone from me. And upon this Jonathan sent him 3,000 strong men unto Antioch. And when they came to the king was very glad of their coming. Howbeit, they that were in the city gathered themselves together into the midst of the city to be to the number of 120,000 men. Damn. And would have slain the king. Wherefore the king fled into the court. But they of the city kept the passages of the city and began to fight. And then the king called to the Jews for help, who came unto him all at once, and dispersing themselves through the city, slew that day of the city to the number of 100,000. Man, it was knocking boys' heads off. And also they set fire on the city, and got many spoils that day, and delivered the king. So when they of the city saw that the Jews had got the city as they would, their courage was abated. And wherefore they made supplication to the king, and cried, saying, Grant us peace, and let the Jews cease from assaulting us and the city. With that they cast away their weapons and made peace, and the Jews were honored in the sight of the king, and in the sight of all that were in his realm. And they returned to Jerusalem, having great spoils. And so King Demetrius sat on the throne of his kingdom, and the land was quiet before him. 53. Hear me. Nevertheless, he dissembled in all that ever he spake, and estranged himself from Jonathan, and neither rewarded him according to the benefits which he had received of him, but troubled him very sore. And after this returned Typhon, and with him the young child Antiochus, who reigned and was crowned. And then there gathered unto him all the men of war, whom Demetrius had put away, and they fought against Demetrius, who turned his back and fled. Oh, I need to stretch. I'm almost there, though. Almost done. Almost done. Moreover, Typhon took the elephants and won Antioch. And at that time, young Antiochus wrote unto Jonathan, saying, I confirm thee in the high priesthood, and appoint thee ruler over the four governments, and to be one of the king's friends. And upon this he sent him golden vessels to be served in, and gave him leave to drink in gold, and to be clothed in purple, and to wear a golden buckle. And his brother Simon also he made captain from the place called the Ladder of Tyrus unto the borders of Egypt. Then Jonathan went forth and passed through the cities beyond the water, and all the forces of Syria gathered themselves unto him for to help him. And when he came to Ascalon, they of the city met him honorably, and from whence he went to Gaza. But they of Gaza shut him out. Wherefore he laid siege unto it, and burned the suburbs thereof with fire, and spoiled them. And afterwards, when they of Gaza made supplication unto Jonathan, he made peace with them, and took the sons of their chief men for hostages, and sent them to Jerusalem, and passed through the country unto Damascus. Now Jonathan, when heard that Demetrius' princes were come to Cades, which is in Galilee, with a great power, purposing to remove him out of the country, he went to meet them, and left Simon his brother in the country. And then Simon encamped against Bethsura, and fought against it a long season, and shut it up. But they desired to have peace with him, which he granted them, and then put them out from thence, and took the city, and set a garrison in it. And as for Jonathan and his hosts, they pitched at the water of Gennesaret, from whence betimes in the morning they gat them to the plain of Nasor. And behold, the host of strangers met them in the plain, who, having laid men in an ambush for him in the mountains, came themselves over against them. And so when they that lay in ambush rose out of their places to join battle, all that were of Jonathan's side fled, insomuch as there was not one of them left, except Mattathias, the son of Absalom, and Judas, the son of Cophli, the captains of the host. Then Jonathan rent his clothes and cast earth upon his head and prayed, and afterwards, turning again to battle, he put them to flight, and so they ran away. And now, when his own men that were fled saw this, they turned again unto him, and with him pursued them to caves, and even into their own tents. And there they camped, so that there were slain of the heathen that day about 3,000 men. But Jonathan returned to Jerusalem. And that was the book of First Maccabees, chapters 9 through 11. Man, that was Rise and Scripts for today. Man, my eyes was getting heavy at the end. And Sleep Monster was coming on me at the end, but man, it was trying to hold me down. It was trying to go to sleep. But I was like, ooh, fight the good fight. Fight it, Shiloh. Fight it. My back was itching. It was getting all kind of stuff was trying to get me. But we're almost finished with First Maccabees. We're almost finished with First Maccabees. I'll come back later on and have the Sabbath reading later on. I think I'm gonna go back to sleep. That's what I'm gonna do. I done read for 2 hours for sure. I'm gonna go back to sleep for a while, and then I'll get back up and read the Sabbath reading, where we're gonna pick up in 2nd Chronicles. We're gonna start 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles. I have to look at the last Sabbath reading. The last Sabbath reading. I think we're about to just start 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles chapter 1 is where I think we're about to begin. And we'll see how far we can get in the Sabbath reading today. But that was Rise and Scripts. That was Rise and Scripts. And we pray that the Most High hear us. We pray that he hear us. We pray that he remember us the same way they prayed before they went into battle. Because this is a battle. It's a battle for your mind, baby. A battle for your mind. We blow up the trumpets. And we're going to keep blowing up the trumpets. We're going to keep blowing them up. Keep letting the trumpets be heard. Hear me. But that was Rise and Scripts, man. I appreciate everybody that stopped by and listened. Thank you for all the comments. We'll keep pushing. One day at a time. As long as you have breath to breathe, you have all you need to succeed, baby. And we succeeded with reading with Shiloh today and Rise and Scripts today. And we'll come back later and succeed, Lord willing, with the Sabbath reading. And pick up in 2nd Chronicles, man, and see we can push our way through 2nd Chronicles and keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going, man. And keep growing. What can we learn? And what can we apply to our lives? That will be the questions. What can we learn and what can we apply to our lives? So, hey, till next time. Shalom, everybody. I hope y'all have a wonderful Sabbath, a wonderful day. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Oh, shit. Let me put this in there. And we'll come back next time. The next rise in the scripts we'll pick back up in 1 Maccabees chapter 12, which will be tomorrow morning, Lord willing. Tomorrow, chapter 12 through oh man. Each next chapters will be long. I should just read chapter 12 through chapter 16 tomorrow. That might be what I do, just to finish off 1 Maccabees, so we can go ahead and get it out the way. Chapter 12. Let me see, man. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how I feel. We'll see how I feel, and we'll see how long an hour gets us. An hour gets us for Rising Scripts. We'll see. We'll see. But till later, shalom, everybody. Happy Sabbath, and I hope you have a wonderful one. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom out. Mocha, baby.